What up, y'all? We back at it. Episode 9, news across all arenas. It's your boy, Andre. And I'm going to try to keep this short. I don't really got a whole lot for this episode today. Just the latest NFL news with training camp starting, some NBA moves, a little bit of, I don't want to say controversy, but definitely a statement made in the WNBA All-Star game. And then going back to the track, F1, baby. Haven't talked about F1 on this podcast in a while. So definitely go back to the track, recap, the last few races that just happened, and then give a little preview of the Belgian GP at Spa. So, yeah, man, not a whole lot as opposed to other episodes and all that. But without further ado, let's get into it. So starting off at the NFL, training camp season is here. We're that much closer to the NFL regular season. The first preseason game literally starts next week, next Friday, the Hall of Fame game. So very, very excited to see football come back into our TV screens and social media and all of that. So, and this is the first time we get to see new players on new teams, right? Aaron Rodgers with the Steelers and Justin Fields with the Jets. Didn't go off to a great start. Dislocated his right toe during their training camp on Thursday the 24th, where he came back the next day, but didn't participate in any drills or anything like that. He didn't throw the ball, didn't run during any scramble drills. So I guess it's a good sign. I guess the injury isn't as bad as, as a normal dislocation injury would be. He's listed as day-to-day. He showed no signs of any limping during stretches and warmups. So that's also a good sign for the Jets. But you also do want to build as much chemistry as you can during these training camp weeks leading up into the season, just so you can, get used to what your teammates do, what your new teammates do, and especially try to build that connection between him and Garrett Wilson before the regular season starts. So Justin Fields, still listed day-to-day, still a bystander, but I think he'll be fine. He's a competitor. He's going to want to be out on the field, and, hopefully, and actually they said reports say that he should expect it to be good by the start of week 1. So good signs all around there for Jets fans, for Justin Fields. So looking forward to see what he does when he gets back on the field for training camp. So Shemar Stewart finally ends his holdup, whatever you want to call it, with the Bengals. Him and the Bengals they come into agreement on a rookie deal. The deal is a fully guaranteed 4-year contract worth up to $18.97 million, including a $10.4 million guarantee for just the signing bonus. So finally ends that saga, finally ends that holdout. He's the final first-round draft pick to sign a rookie deal. So good for the team, good for Stewart. And really, it tells me that he's very confident in himself. I believe this is the highest contract deal for a 17th draft pick in all of NFL history. So for him to have that much confidence in himself before stepping onto an NFL field, I gotta give credit to the kid. He believes in himself. His agents believed in him, obviously, and the Bengals obviously believed in him to work out a deal like this. So good for him. I think mainly the big part of why he's held up for so long on signing his rookie contract was, quote, language that could potentially void the guaranteed money in the contract. So he just wanted to be paid, basically is what that's saying. He just wanted to be paid, the money that he believes that he should be paid. Eventually worked out a deal, and now, gets to go to training camp. Obviously, we all know that he hasn't participated in any offseason workouts. There's been pictures, I think, of him going back to his alma mater in Texas A&M, doing workouts over there. So there's reports saying that he might, you know, opt out of, this year to go back to Texas A&M for one more year. It's crazy, very very crazy. But he's a highly regarded player coming out of Texas A&M. And the Bengals, I guess, really wanted to work it out with him because, obviously drafted him in the first round and all that. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see if his performance lives up to that contract. Like I said, he's a very highly regarded player coming out of Texas A&M, to be drafted in that position in the first round. So, good for the team, good for Stewart. I guess good for Bengals fans. Now you don't have to keep worrying about if your first round draft pick is going to play for the team this season or not. So stepping off from the NFL field onto the NBA hardwood court, we see another homecoming, right? We saw it with Dame going back to Portland, and now we see it with Chris Paul going back to the LA Clippers on a 1-year, $3.6 million deal. I mean, honestly, man, this is, I don't know. I know Chris Paul is he's 40. Obviously, he's an older player, but I don't know. The Clippers. I mean, I've said it every week. I said it since the NBA postseason. The NBA postseason and free agency recap episode, and last week's episode. With just more NBA free agency updates. The Clippers might be they might be cooking up something here, man. I'm just saying, they may not be the obvious favorites to win the championship, but the way this roster is starting to stack up, they could potentially make some noise in the playoffs. So, or they could definitely make some noise to be a playoff contender, right? I think it's very interesting to see this kind of, I don't know if I want to call it a trend, but Dame going back to Portland, Chris Paul going back to LA. I don't know. We might see more players. We might see more veteran players go back to one of their, I guess, one of their teams that, one, they got drafted from, or two, had played there for a while and decided to go back, or then decided to leave. So yeah, I mean, I like it for the Clippers. I mean, like I said, they're stacking up their team, and for Chris Paul, I don't think he needed to be in San Antonio anymore, right? I mean, you have DeAndre Fox there now. He can definitely play with Wemby. So I think this makes sense for Chris Paul to go back to, not where it all started, obviously, but to go back to where he helped create a new culture, right? To where he helped build this team to be a playoff contender every single year. So this, honestly, at 4 years old on a 1-year deal, this might be his final ride, right? And we'll see how far the Clippers go. I'm assuming this would be Chris Paul's final season in the NBA if it's on a 1-year deal like this. So, good for Chris Paul, man. Obviously, it won't be the same. It won't be the same team than when he played there for. I think he was there for 7-8 seasons with the Clippers. So definitely going to be a different team. It's going to be a different team from the last time he was there in LA. So I don't know, this Clippers team, man. They might be on to something. So sticking in LA, we get more news out of LA basketball. Not only Chris Paul going back to the Clippers, but the Lakers signing another free agent. More specifically, Luka Doncic pulling out a LeBron James move, a Legia move out of James's playbook. Decides to recruit Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart had agreed to a contract buyout with his former team, the Washington Wizards. and signs a 2-year, $11 million deal with the Lakers. So I guess credit to Doncic. He, wanted to have Smart on the team. I guess I guess Smart offensively would space out the floor, be around the perimeter, and then defensively too. I mean, Marcus Smart, 2022 Defensive Player of the Year, so kind of get the best of both worlds there. So I don't know, as a Lakers fan, I think it was a solid pickup. I'm very interested to see how this plays out. I think by this trade, well, not trade, but by this signing happening, right, by the Lakers deciding to go with Doncic and deciding to bring in Marcus Smart, I think it just gives Lakers fans like myself good signs that Luka Doncic will eventually sign an extension with the team. But yeah, I think it's a solid pickup. Obviously I wasn't a Marcus Smart fan when he was in Boston because rivalry. But yeah, I think it's a solid pickup for defensive reasons too. I mean, we can't just rely on the big man to play both offensively and defensively, right? We need a guard. We need somebody at the guard position to do that as well. And Marcus Smart is a good first step to that. So yeah. And obviously if LeBron, decides to play out this final season or this his final year of his contract with the Lakers, um, obviously that'll be it'll be interesting to see what that starting lineup looks like. I'm assuming Marcus Smart will be in that starting lineup role or might come off the bench as a sixth man, but we'll see, man. We'll see what happens. But I I think this is a good pickup by the Lakers. Obviously you also still have Austin Reeves on the team too. So definitely trying to balance out the team, on both ends of the floor. So yeah, we'll see how this plays out. But I really like this as a Lakers fan, to be honest. So sticking with basketball, transitioning out from the NBA to the WNBA. Their All-Star game just happened. And if you haven't heard by now, Pay Us What You Owe Us is the shirt that all 22 All-Star players wore during the All-Star game warmups this past weekend. I will say, they definitely will fight for what they want, and definitely, definitely sparked up some debates. People calling it controversial, people saying it's the wrong message, people saying not the message that's wrong, it's the way you're saying it. Um, I've heard it all. It's definitely a big moment in not only in women's sports but just in sports in general. Gets the people talking. Um, Whether it's good, bad reactions, it gets the people talking about the W. My personal opinion, I obviously they should be paid more. Women, the basketball players in the WNBA should be paid more. Kind of gave my take on it a little bit last week too on last week's episode. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't know. I think the message. I understand what the message says, obviously, but you know, I mean, it's just how. I mean, I know the WNBA just they got a new broadcasting deal, right? Where I forgot what the exact figure was, but it was like in the millions of dollars or close to billions of dollars. Um, but yeah, obviously they deserve to be paid more than what they're getting paid now, but I think the messaging. I don't think the message itself. I think they could have reworded a little bit, but they got it. And the message was inspired from God, I forgot. It was from some, I think it's some like nonprofit organization, um, and they had a similar type of like lingo, similar type of message to what the players wore in the All Star Game warmups. But yeah, I think it really just it really tells the league, like, we're not going to stop fighting until we get what we want, right? And maybe they won't get everything that they want, but they just want a fair deal, right? Obviously, they want to get paid more. Obviously, obviously it's just more than just the financial part of, what they want on the new CBA, right? So, we'll see how this plays out, but, you definitely want to get a new CBA done before, I would say by the end of this year, just because the season ends, the WNBA season ends, and its entirety ends in like around October. Um, then you have that you have those 5-6 months of off season before you go into May, but you can't really start off season workouts if you don't have a contract or if you don't have a new CBA. So, yeah, obviously the players should get paid more. Um, whatever that means to you, whatever that means to the league, to the players, that's up for debate, I guess. So stepping off from the hardwood onto the racetrack, F1, and I will say the F1, the movie, amazing, amazing. I won't spoil anything, obviously, but the ending of that movie, I teared up. I'm not gonna lie, I teared up. I teared up. Man, that was a hell of a movie. Loved it. I loved it, especially as a new F1 fan watching the sport. Loved it. So shout out Brad Pitt, shout out Damson Idris for doing y'all thing, man. Loved it. Loved it. Haven't seen a decent movie like that in a while, so kudos to those two. But on to the real F1, you know what I'm saying? Um, 6 races have passed since the last time I talked about F1. The Italian GP, Verstappen won first place, followed by the McLaren boys, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri. Then we had the what am I saying? The Monaco GP, um, Lando Norris won, Charles Leclerc came in second, and then Oscar Piastri came in third. The Spanish GP, Oscar Piastri came in first, Lando Norris came in second, Charles Leclerc came in third. And I would say, going back to the Monaco GP, I watched that. I watched the last like 30-ish laps of that match, or sorry, of that race. Um, I will say Charles Leclerc came really, really close in the last, I would say, 8 laps of that race to beating out Norris. But oh man, Norris held out for so long, and he was able to hold off Leclerc and Leclerc's hometown race. So it was very, very close. And the betting lines, the live betting lines for that race, I was putting on a bet live for Charles Leclerc to win the race, but I couldn't doubt Lando Norris just yet, and ended up he ended up holding on to the lead for as long as he could. His tires were starting to wear out, and came out with the win. But I mean, even just like the final race times, the final lap times, for that GP, obviously it tells a different story, but it was very, very close, and I think it was one of the more entertaining races I've seen this year, so far, in this F1 season. But yeah, shout out to the Monaco GP. That was a hell of a race. That was that was fun to watch. The Canadian GP, George Russell came in first, followed by Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli, the rookie, the kid, coming in podium, P3. Shout out to Mercedes, man. The Mercedes boys coming in hot. The Canadian GP. So I saw a little bit of it. Yeah, there. I mean, it was just from sprints to qualifiers. It was okay for the McLaren boys, for Norris and Piastri, but on race day, it was just stuff didn't go right. I believe that was a rainy weather too. So, uh, yeah, a very disappointing race for him from McLaren, but came back in the next race in Austria, the Austrian GP. The McLaren boys came in a 1-2 finish. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Nico Hulkenberg. My goodness. Oh my God. I was so happy. I didn't get to see the race, but sorry. That was the British GP. That's my bad. But the McLaren boys and the Austrian GP came in a 1-2 finish also. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Charles Leclerc. Also didn't see that race, but from what I've seen, what I've heard, it's decent. You kind of expect the McLaren boys to be podium. Every race you expect the McLaren boys to be, to finish podium. So no surprise there. But the British GP, right? Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri. We already know the McLaren boys, they be turning up this season. And Nico Hulkenberg. We're going to get back to that. You know what I'm saying? Nico Hulkenberg, a 15-year F1 career, 239 race starts, and he finally gets an F1 podium finish at P3, coming in from last place too. Unbelievable. An unbelievable race. I didn't get to see it. That was also a very, very treacherous weather under the rain there, and it's at Silverstone. But Nico Hulkenberg, he kept from last place, and all these incidences, all the accidents, the safety cars. Nico Hulkenberg just drove a wonderful race. It was a very, very, very tough from what I saw. And I woke up to Nico Hulkenberg finishing P3, and I'm not gonna lie, I teared up. I teared up for Nico Hulkenberg because it kind of reminded me of the F1 movie a little bit. But yeah, very, very happy for a veteran like Hulkenberg. And if you've seen all the videos on social media post race, you can't feel anything but happy for Nico, and just for everything. And there was a couple times, I think I've read, there was a couple times where he's coming really close, earlier on in Nico's career, where he could have finished podium, where he could have had a podium finish, earlier in his career. But yeah, better late than never, I guess. For Nico Hulkenberg to get his first podium finish. He's always finished in top 10 in all the years that he's raced in F1, but he's never finished podium. And after 239 race starts, man, shout out Nico Hulkenberg, man. He deserves it. he deserves it. Now all he's got to do now is just to win one. That's all he's got to do, right? He's got the podium. Now he's got to win one. And it's easier said than done. But defied the odds. Literally defied the betting odds. He was like 500. He's like plus 500,000 to 1 or something like that. 50,000 to 1. 50,000 to 1 to finish podium, to have a podium finish. So yeah, shout out Nico Hulkenberg. The next race coming up this weekend, or I should say this past weekend by the time this episode gets posted, it's the Belgian GP. And also by the time this episode gets posted, the race would have already been done. But as of Friday, July 25th, they just finished their only free practice session. So they're about to go to sprint. They're about to do their sprint race for the Belgian GP. So the top 10 order for that is Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Esteban Ocon, Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly, Isaac Hadjar, and Carlos Sainz, Ollie Bierman, Pierre Gasly, Isaac Hadjar, and Gabriel Bortoleto. So shout out the Haas. The Haas boys, Ocon and Behrman, another rookie. You know what I'm saying? The rookies really putting their name out there. Bortoletto coming in 10th for Kick Sauber. Yeah, I mean, just looking at this top 10, if I were to guess who to win, obviously, one of the McLaren boys is gonna they're gonna want to duke it out. But if we're gonna exclude the McLaren boys out of there, just in the top 10 alone, you can't doubt Mighty Max. I'll take Pierre Gasly. He's had some good finishes. Always, he's had some consistent top 10 finishes this season. Yeah, I'll take Pierre Gasly. I don't think he'll win it, but doesn't hurt to take a shot. He's gotten close to. I think he's gotten pretty close to a podium finish in these recent races. So I'll take a shot at Pierre Gasly. But obviously can't doubt Mighty Max, Mighty Max Verstappen. And speaking of Max Verstappen, forgot to put this on my rundown. Christian Horner was relieved of his duties as CEO of for not Red Bull Racing, but for Red Bull. It's very I don't want to say shocking. I think it was just a matter of, I think it's one of those, it's just a matter of time before he left or got relieved of his duties. But yeah, Christian Horner, after 20 years with Red Bull, finally gets let go. I've seen that he had like some scandals against him. He's been part of some scandals in years prior. So, whether that led up to, whether that led up to Red Bull's decision to let him go, I don't know. But it's definitely been on the news he's been on the news for some scandals he was a part of, and I forgot the new CEO's name. Let me see here. Laurent Mekies. I could be I could be messing that up, but Laurent Mekies, however you say the last name, named the new CEO of Red Bull. Now whether that affects Max Verstappen staying with Red Bull, who knows? But it's been said that the Christian Horner departure wouldn't affect his decision to stay with Red Bull or not. Think Max Verstappen is nearing towards the final year of his contract with Red Bull. Reports are saying he'll be signing with Mercedes. If that ever happens, y'all definitely know I'm a come on here, definitely make an episode, because that's like, it's like LeBron James leaving Cleveland to Miami type of deal. You know what I mean? Or that's like when Kevin Durant left the Golden State Warriors to go to, or no, that's like Kevin Durant leaving the Oklahoma City Thunder to go to Golden State. That's how big Max Verstappen is to the F1 world right now. The best, well, I don't know if he's the best racer technically right now this season, but he's definitely one of the best racers in the sport right now. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. It's the developments are very, very interesting, and I think he stays with Red Bull, but we'll see what happens. I mean, there's still a few more races left this year. We'll see how things pan out with Red Bull. Yeah, very, very interesting stuff in F1 right now. Tap in right now before everybody gets on the hype train. I lied. I got some NHL news too. You know what I'm saying? I got some NHL news for y'all. Just some contract extensions. Lucas Dostal signs a 5-year, $6.5 million AAV extension with the Ducks. Obviously, John Gibson got traded to Detroit for Peter Mrazek earlier on in NHL free agency. So the Ducks got their number one goaltender in Lucas Dostal, signing that type of deal. So good for the Ducks. Need a new fresh start with their goaltending. So, and I mean, listen, Dostal's a pretty, he's not an elite goaltender, but he's solid, and I think he'll get better. Still young, definitely deserves to get an extension with the Ducks. If it's an overpay, I don't know. I mean, 6.5 on 5 years. Ducks fans, let me know. But I think he's a solid goaltender for that team for sure. Capo Caco signs a 3-year, $4.53 million AAV contract with the Kraken. Obviously got traded from the Rangers. He was supposed to be one of their standout young players. Didn't work out that way. So they ended up trading him to Seattle. Seattle liked him enough to keep him around for 3 more years. Kraken fans, let me know how you feel about that, because I don't really know how I feel about it. I don't really know what's going on in Seattle, to be honest, but I guess you get a good third liner in Capo Caco. So kind of solidified the third line there. Gabe Vilardi onto the big boy contract now. Onto the big boy contracts. Contract extensions, I should say. Gabe Vilardi signs a 6-year, $7.5 million AAV deal to stay with the Jets. I guess I'd like it just because they shipped off Nikolai Ehlers, so I guess you gotta pay somebody else that type of money. And he's a solid player for the Jets. I don't know if he's worth $7.5 million for 6 years. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, he's a solid player. I'm not saying he's not a solid player. I don't know if the figure's right. Might have paid him a little bit lower than 7.5, but hey, listen, y'all do you. Jets fans, is it an overpay? Is it not? Let me know. I've had enough people come at me about my Connor McDavid statements. you know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Check out the TikTok. Follow us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, across all arenas. Get at it. Tap in. And then this one just blew my mind. Jackson Blake signs an 8-year, $5.63 million deal to stay with the Hurricanes, or $5.63 million AAV deal to stay with the Hurricanes. Listen, he's still a young player. This is a big bet. This is a big risk that the Hurricanes are taking on. But if you really believe in this kid, then take it. I think this is an overpay for sure. But Hurricanes fans, y'all tell me, y'all believe in this kid? Because he's going to be with y'all for the next 8 years. $5.63 million. $5.63 million AAV every year. So that rounds it to, $40 million? Somewhere around that range. Or no, sorry, that rounds it to, yeah. If I'm doing my math right, it's sounds like $40 million for 8 years for Jackson Blake. Oh, we'll see. I mean, he had a solid outing, this past season with the Hurricanes. Can't say that it'll be the same for the next 8 years, but we'll see what happens. That's all I got for this week's News Across All Arenas. I apparently had a lot more thoughts than I originally thought I had. But hey, it's all good. I'm not mad at it. Hopefully y'all not mad at that. But there's one news story I wanted to cover in this episode, but honestly, it's honestly a lot. So I want to save it for next week. Probably will be a Across All Arenas episode. For those that aren't in the hockey world or that aren't involved in the hockey world, there's been a case going on since, I would say, February, March of this year. 5 NHL players have been accused of sexual assault from a woman that claimed that she was sexually assaulted back in June of 2018 during the 2018 Canada World Junior Tournament. The 5 NHL players are Carter Hart, Alex Formenton, Colin Foote, Dylan Dubé, and Michael McLeod. And like I said, I'll break it all down because it's honestly a lot. And for those that know the case, y'all know, because I've been following up too. I've been seeing the latest on what's been happening with the case and all that. But as of July 25th, 2025, all 5 players have been found not guilty of sexual assault from 2018. So, like I said, I'll break it all down next week. Probably be a Across All Arenas episode just because it'll be a longer episode. But yeah, this is and I'm not going to say how I feel about it right now. I'm going to save that for next week. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot to read about, to follow up on as the case went on. But yeah, not guilty. Carter Hart, Alex Formenton, Colin Foote, Dylan Dubé, Michael McLeod. And because of that, the NHL decided to still not reinstate those 5 players into the league. They want to do their own investigation and kind of want to handle their own what they want to do with it. And just kind of go from there. You know what I'm saying? But the NHLPA, the Players Association, they think they should be reinstated. They think they should be able to play again in the NHL. So we'll see how this all pans out in the next coming weeks, I assume. I'm assuming we'll hear something, I guess a resolution before the start of the regular season about whether or not these players are eligible to come back into the league. And as I'm wrapping up, I get a ESPN notification from Adam Schefter. Falcons wide receiver Darnell Mooney has a shoulder injury and will miss a few weeks, according to the Falcons. So, oof. All right. I guess breaking news not breaking news by the time this episode comes out, but yeah, Darnell Mooney, man, that sucks. But I guess better for that to happen now than during the regular season. But an injury is still an injury, so see what happens there too. And until we find out what happens with that, I'll see y'all when I see y'all. Deuce.